Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, the podcast where founders and business owners get in-depth insights and actionable takeaways from industry experts. We're here to help maximize your revenue, streamline your operations, and keep more of your hard-earned money. Now here's your host, Miguel Alexander Centeno.
Thank you for joining this conversation. I am Miguel, founder and CEO of Centurion Firm, where I have the honor of leading a small tax strategy team serving businesses just like yours. And the cool thing about what I get to do is I get to work with businesses who are doing much cooler things. I do a deep dive with clients, mentors, and businesses I admire about their world, how they think about their topic, and how you as a business owner or operator can learn from the best. Joining me today is Brandon Arvanaghi, CEO, and Dustin Kamali, VP of Business Development at Meow. On our side, you'll get to hear from our wonderful Renee Sabaram, Client Success Manager at the firm. And I'm excited about this episode because Meow is doing some really cool things when it comes to fintech for startups. First, I'd love to hear just some personal things. What do you guys do every day? I'll start with you, Dustin.
Been at Meow for, I think, 2 years now. Currently our head of partnerships. A lot of my time is spent with, as you can imagine, our partners, plenty of accountants, fractional CFOs, you name it, focused on growing in new markets. So continuing to, I guess, grow in the venture-backed space, but also serve small businesses. So that's most of my day.
Yeah, on my end, I'm CEO of the company. A lot of my time is spent on customer support. So if you come in through the intercom widget on our site, I will see it. And I am very often responding to it alongside our head of ops. The reason for that is because that's how I can stay very in touch with the pain points of the customer, and we know exactly what to build. So that's the majority of my time still.
I love that. And Brandon, we'll start with question number one with you. Why another fintech big?
Yeah, so I mean, my co-founder Bryce and I, we have always kind of had the North Star that financial services feel a little icky. There seem to be a lot of sneaky fees. There seems to be a lot of, advertising one thing and you really get something. So directionally, we're kind of B2B founders at heart. He's from the Midwest. I'm from Northern Virginia. We're not like kind of Silicon Valley born and raised. So building a better B2B suite was pretty exciting to us for a long time, with just the North Star that it feels icky out there. So one thing led to another through a series of pivots. The high rate environment gave us an opportunity to have an attractive wedge. We started by making a dashboard to buy T-bills through a broker-dealer partner. And that really took off, thankfully. And people started asking us, well, I want to do my operations through you guys too. So we partnered with banks to then spin up a checking account. And one thing led to another. Now we're a business banking fintech. Still the same North Star, try to eliminate sneakiness for small businesses, provide a really good business banking experience through our partner banks.
In terms of like the way that someone would experience the product, what are some things that a customer gets with Meow that gets to that North Star? What does being kind of a Meow customer feel like? What are the features you think about are really important?
I think economics is the biggest feature of Meow right now. And that's always going to be, in my opinion. It's like, you go to us, we found banks that are willing to pay high interest rates. You can see on the rate sheets at meow.com/rate sheets on the checking account. So a lot of people don't even know to ask, hey, does my checking account pay interest, right? They're used to having a savings account or some kind of money market or some kind of sweep. The checking account makes money for the banks, just like a savings account does, right? So that's one of the things we broke the fourth wall on. We're not the first to do it, but we really wanted to focus on that. So the checking accounts when you get a checking account from our partner banks at meow.com, they pay the high interest rates. So that's one of the big value adds from the businesses that serve us, that we service, is they get access to yield, checking accounts from our partner banks, free wires and ACH. We're just trying to make things a little bit less icky out there.
And I'll add, in terms of being an accountant or a user, I have a few small businesses. The interface is so important. The number of clicks it takes to see your balance or transfer things. Just giving you that softball there, I think some of the interface and ease of use is such a win when you think about kind of your digital native small business clients. Thank you for that. You have this wonderful analogy about going to bat for your customers to get that 5%, where you mentioned Costco. Will you share that with the audience here? I just thought it was spectacular.
Yeah, so we're not affiliated with Costco. We love them though, right? So Costco is a volume business. You listen to the CEO, he says, we are a volume business, not a margin business. So they don't make a ton of money on any one customer. They make little money on a lot of customers. They want to sell a lot. And I don't think anyone's ever tried that in financial services. So I don't think anyone's tried to give the majority of the economics from the checking account from a partner bank or low, AUM fees on T-bills and win on volume, not margin. So what Costco does, like why they have the good pricing is because they go to bat for the customers. When you walk into a Costco store, you feel like Costco kind of has your back, right? You feel like they negotiated really hard with their vendors to get you a really good price. We're trying to do that with our partners, but for things like business checking accounts, for things like a brokerage account. So we want people to associate us with going to bat for them. We basically bring this collective bargaining power to the banks that we partner with to get really good rates, in our opinion, for the end customer. So it's kind of, you go to Meow, you have people going to bat for you.
I think not just in your opinion, sorry, but in anyone's opinion. I mean, if you look at a CD locking up your cash just to get 4%, it seems ridiculous. You might need that cash. So huge fan of what you guys did there. I just would love to hear a little bit about, the journey. Share a little bit about some of those, hills and valleys of Meow and where you are today. Everyone sees Meow today, or at least I do. And I'm like, you guys must have had it easy this whole time. Tell us a little bit. What's it like navigating interest rates, the pandemic, this digital revolution? What stands out?
Yeah, the pandemic allowed us to raise money. So Bryce and I, my co-founder and I, we had no background in VC or anything like that. No one knew us. So there was money flying around. It allowed no-name people like us to raise money. But, we started in a low-rate environment. We pivoted just after our Series A, started from scratch with the T-bill dashboard. It's very rarely linear in a startup. All it's like navigating. It's like a boat. You have to navigate it, and the customer is kind of the guiding light for you. So what we found is just like following the customer, following what they ask for. You're gonna at the end, it's gonna be okay. Any given week, it'll feel like we're not making much progress, et cetera. But then you look back on a 3-month timeline, you're like, wow, that was a great 3 months. It's kind of magic. So just the customer guides that for you.
And I'm curious, are you willing to share? Can you think of any like moments? There's probably some good moments, but some bad ones. Anything stand out?
So when SVB went down, for example, that was a crazy situation. So I had like a nasty flu. We had my co-founder and head of sales on like multiple sales calls simultaneously, just trying to onboard everyone. So that was kind of crazy. I don't think we'll ever experience something like that again. That was like 24/7 being on phone calls. We pivoted right after our Series A also. Like we raised a Series A, $22 million Series A, and 3 weeks later, basically, we pivoted the entire business. So that was basically starting from scratch, like 3 weeks after raising a Series A. So that was another one. But it's just a series of things that let you find your identity.
And I apologize for interrupting. I just think that like combining how what you just said and then letting your customer be the North Star is a really big takeaway. And I think like the interesting thing about Pivot is, did your customer change, right? Like, did your customers' needs, when you change customers, obviously they change. Did that happen at all to you? Did you change your ICP?
No, that was a nice thing. It's like we always viewed customer trust as the only asset we cared about. So like the assets in the platform might flow in and out. We don't care. We just want trust to go up. We want to do right by the customer. And that's what allowed us to successfully pivot, because it was the same customers who were with us pre-pivot that ended up coming in again post-pivot. So that's what you got to focus on.
Yeah. I just quickly want to double click on the SVB breakdown, because us in the accounting community, we were on the phone with our clients all that week trying to transfer their accounts over to the big banks, to JP Morgan Chase. But we were trying to help them figure it out. Some caught way early. The VCs said get out. Some, they were locked up, and we were dealing with the whole what's going to happen. Where did you come in on that? Were you guys early when companies started figuring out like, oh gosh, we got to transfer our money out? And what was the reaction when people were like, wait, we're going to Meow?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we had a T-bills dashboard, and how that works, by the way, is everyone gets their own account in their own business's name at BNY Pershing, right? So we're not in the flow of funds. We had that ready. It was growing modestly. And then I think we started seeing, I think there was like a Substack article or someone just posted something seemingly innocuous on Twitter about SVB's balance sheet, right? And it was just kind of like floating in private messages casually. I got it from a few people because we were a treasury management company. They were asking for my thoughts, and I didn't really have many. And then suddenly it was like pandemonium. And our name got out there. And I think the name Meow actually helped us. There was actually one post from someone on LinkedIn, some VC with a big following, who's like, we're in the most ridiculous timeline. SCB is going down, and people are suggesting using a fintech called Meow. And that was a crazy moment. So $500 million came to us in 4 weeks in the platform. And that was, the name was, that's when people had their first touch point with Meow as a financial technology company.
Story. Thank you for that. And then just today, and then we'll transition into talking about some of the product features with Renee and Dustin. But yeah, like last question is like, how do you just, you're at the dinner table, you've got your aunt and they're like, hey, I know what a bank is. Like, what the heck is a fintech? Like, how do you compare kind of the modern banking experience to kind of where you see things are going and how, someone interacts within the owl? Like, how do you distinguish that and differentiate it?
Yeah, this one is actually a really fun one. And, the more times you do it, obviously, like anything, the better you'll get. But to explain Meow in the early days was like really, really hard because we had all this jargon. But the sooner we just realized that all we're essentially doing is finding banks that are willing to pay high interest rates on checking accounts, you kind of look back and say, this is pretty much a marketplace of banks. And the average person will just say, well, why wouldn't I walk into a bank and just open an account directly with one of them? But the way that Brandon has negotiated these agreements with these banking partners of ours is that they don't pay you any interest. So essentially, Meow is getting you that pricing tension that we kind of always bring up, which you don't get anywhere else. And you don't even get that with other fintechs, right? So nobody has really, really innovated on the way that pretty much banks make money or fintechs make money. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So to double click on that, definitely all true. Like the national average for interest checking accounts is way lower than what you're seeing on the meow.com/rate sheets. You can see that on the FDIC's website, right? So opening a interest checking account, the average bank, you might see that rate. And fintechs came along. Fintechs are supposed to change the game, right? They're financial technology companies. And you kind of, in some cases, you see more of the same, exactly like what Dustin said. Like if you have a checking account through a bank, through a fintech's portal, right? Still at the bank, they may not pay interest on that checking account either. So what's the innovation there? What's different there? So it's exactly right. Like we had to focus on our cost structures because we wanted to do things differently. Even though you're getting a business checking account through the bank directly when you go to meow.com, we wanted to get our cost structures really right. So we're passing back the majority of the economics to customers and can do so profitably. We're a profitable company now. So that's really the innovation, if there is any innovation. It's just that kind of Costco model.
Fantastic. Let's hop over to Renee. Do you want to take the next set of questions?
Hi, guys. So within my current role, I work a lot with clients, as you know, and a lot of the times, like some frustrations that I face is like getting access to the accounts, and just making the process easier to get access into client bank accounts, also giving it to my team. So just some questions that I do have and I'm curious about is, how does Meow streamline access to client bank accounts for accounting firms? Do we get our dashboard? How are we able to manage the accounts efficiently?
Yeah. So if you have, I guess the sign off from your client, you can even open bank accounts on behalf of them through our banking partners. So the way that the application works is that you can pretty much manage everything from Meow's dashboard. You have complete transparency into who the banking partners are, right? Where your funds are. But what's important to know is that you can actually do a lot of the work if you're available to, or if you have that autonomy to, on behalf of your client. So a 5-minute application of, your business credentials, right? Your EIN letter, your articles of incorporation. You can then invite your client as a user, and you can invite that client as an admin. And then your client can then, I guess, make you a bookkeeper, accountant. We have multiple controls with various permission sets available in the dashboard. So you can do pretty much the heavy lifting and be the hero, getting them, I guess, smooth controls and a lot of interest.
That's really cool. I think they would get stuck, like as an accountant, you would get stuck in the BOI section, right? Because the beneficial owner needs to verify their like photo ID, right? It was a pretty cool process. I just did it. I think at some point you do hand it over to the actual owners of the company to verify their identity. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. You obviously need to have the authorization of the company as well to do it. Many accountants do, is the nice thing there. But correct. The beneficial owners need to attest to their identity.
Dustin, like what other features have you heard? I know we talked a little bit that accountants truly appreciate besides, being able to set it up and having dashboard access.
Yeah. The first thing is integrations, right? And you would imagine that those are accounting integrations, right? So we have direct integrations to like QuickBooks, Xero, a few other like Puzzle, Wave, etc. But any accounting software that works with Plaid or integrates with Plaid is somebody that we can connect to. All the major payroll providers, right? Credit cards, you name it, you can pretty much just with a click of a button get set up.
So those are the three that when I go into the dashboard, those are the three accounting sources of record that you guys primarily connect to. Is that right?
Correct.
QuickBooks, Xero, and Puzzle.
NetSuite too, I think.
We were talking a little earlier, Brandon, is that, usually when we talk about data flows as an accountant, it's about the bank feeds feeding into, our source of truth, QuickBooks and Xero's. You guys have two-way integration. So tell me a little bit about how, a use case, a user story where I would be in Meow and getting some of that data back. Like what kind of insights do I get? Tell me a little bit about those features, if you will.
Yeah, so we built a runway tracker. It's called Meow Runway, basically. And it will take the ERP data and it'll basically extrapolate that. It'll treat it as a source of truth and it'll extrapolate what's your burn. Like how many months of runway do you have? This is more applicable to venture-backed companies than the small businesses, right? And it'll also tell you how much your interest could offset that, for example. So you'll get a snapshot at any given point of like what your estimated runway is, how much your interest offsets it. And that's been useful for a lot of our venture-backed companies.
Especially too, if you are, I think now there's a big trend that you raised a ton for a longer runway. You really need that. You really need to get some kind of return on your money. Tell me a little bit how that use case came out. I mean, is it something that you needed that then you kind of explored with the community? Did it come from the community? Just would love a little bit about how some of these features get put on the roadmap.
Yeah, I mean, the interest rates are like, they're way higher than they used to be, right? So there's a meaningful implication of having your money earning interest, in a checking account from our partner banks or earning yield on T-bills and having better visibility than what's just available by default. There's a lot. You can get very complex with Excel, but if you don't want to or possibly like don't know how to, then it's way easier to get a snapshot, and we try to make that clearer for folks.
Let's take a break here. Quick note about the time of the year. As of the release of this episode on March 31st, the tax deadline is 2 weeks away. We want to share with you a quick public service announcement that this is the last day to pay your 2025 tax liability, whether or not you file or extend. We recommend having an idea of what your tax bill is looking like and making a payment by that deadline to avoid unwanted interest and penalties. If you're a small business operator, small business owner, or investor and don't have a tax advisor, feel free to reach out to us at centurionfirm.com/contact. That's centurionfirm.com/contact. We're here to help. Now let's return to this conversation with Brandon and Dustin.
We have to do it, guys. We got to talk about security. There's a lot of concerns, I'd say, in the operator community. That, we hear neobanks, we hear fintech, and we also hear lack of security. How are you guys thinking about this? How are you guys different than the ones that should not be named?
We love this. So I'm a former security engineer. I was a security engineer at Gemini. I was a security consultant at Mandiant. So that's my background. And the founding team is, I think, 3 of our first, maybe 5 hires were security engineers as well. So SOC 2 Type 1 attestation from a Big 4 audit firm. Now, when you hear about SOC 2, there's some easier ways to get them. We went through what I consider the hardest way with a big four firm. So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, we set up with our banking partners ACH authorization. So that's a really cool feature. So if someone has your accounting and routing number, say an attacker gets it, if you enable ACH authorization, you can create a whitelist or an allow list of only these people or these institutions I will allow to pull money from my bank account if they have my accounting and routing number. So if an attacker is not on this pre-authorized list that you create of people who can use your accounting and routing number to just arbitrarily pull funds, they won't be able to. That's a feature in the app. That's been very, very powerful. So even if there's a breach of your account number and routing number, you have that layer of protection that the attacker can't really do anything with it to pull funds if they're not on your list.
And just to be clear, they have the information for your Meow account.
For your business checking account from Meow's partner banks, exactly right. So if you have a business checking account through Meow, we have this ACH authorization feature that we've built with our bank partners that checking account, an attacker can't pull funds from it if they are not on your pre-authorized ACH authorization list. You have to set that up.
If you're going to leave a bulk of your cash sitting in an interest-bearing account.
Yeah, the peace of mind from that is just like fantastic, right? If someone tries to draw money, it'll get rejected and you'll get an email if they're not on your list. I mean, that's pretty awesome. So that's exciting. Let me keep going. I love this. We require step-up authentication. So anytime you try to move money. So if you try to send an ACH or wire, the 2FA prompt will come up as well. And we don't allow SMS-based two-factor authentication. So it's not like a text to your phone number, because that's actually quite insecure. We require at least authenticator apps. So that's like Google Auth, Duo, etc. That's anytime you want to move money. It's not just logging in, but it's if you try to send a wire and you already have a session, you're already in the Meow dashboard, you try to send a wire, you got to type in a code again. So it's not enough for an attacker to just get access to your session. They need to have your code present when you're sending wire, which is a huge bar. On top of that, let me keep going. You can set up really granular spend controls, such that you have initiators of wires and then approvers of wires. Same with ACH. So you can set it up such that you have one person initiating a wire and it requires 2 or 3 or 3 of 5 approvers for amounts above $500,000. You can make it such that the CEO has to be involved or the CFO. So there's really granular spend controls on top of the 2FA for sending money, on top of the SOC 2 type 1 that I talked about, on top of the ACH authorization. Like, we really like this stuff. It's pretty core to who we are. And
I want to translate a little bit of what you said for the account community out there, because what I prefer is you can essentially have the Bill.com features without having to use Bill.com.
Exactly right.
Let's come back to security, because I think the question that is my dumb question is well, what's wrong with all the other guys that shouldn't be named? Like, what's happening with them that we don't have to worry about? Yeah,
I can't really speak. I don't want to disparage anyone else. I can't speak to what they're doing, not doing. But I can just say that we love this stuff. I mean, this is just like from the core, we love it. ACH authorization is just such a fire feature. I mean, that's an incredible feature. And if you're an accountant and you tell your companies about this, man, they're going to love that. They're going to love that. Then they're going to be so excited that you found this for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, no, I'm just, and I'm going to get more specific. Like, when you look at kind of the evolve stuff, where you can't even trace where your cash is, some of the ledgers are like, we don't even know where your cash is actually sitting. Like, I think the account community is really worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, big time. I mean, we saw this coming, I think, 2 years ago. Without naming names, so to speak,
I'll know who. Go ahead.
How some fintechs kind of structured themselves. Like, there were fintechs out there, I guess, that they controlled the ledger of customer balances, and the banks weren't quite aware of whose money is whose. And that's just an absurd. That's wild to me that situation ever kind of came up. There's a much better way that the bank knows everyone's balances at all times, and the bank owns the ledger, et cetera. So there's certainly a proper way to do things. Without naming names, this has been obvious for years, in my opinion, on how to structure things correctly.
Mic drop. Love that.
No, I didn't mean to mic drop.
No, I needed it. I mean, but let's talk a little bit about data privacy for users. Maybe you already touched on that, but just I'd love an explicit quote on, like, how are you protecting your users' data?
Yeah, I think it just comes from a security first mindset. right? You take advantage of things like the principle of least privilege. So people only have privileges internally that need those privileges. SOC 2 is like a public facing attestation to what we do, but the founding team being security engineers and like myself as well, like that's not an accident. That's very important when you're building a financial technology company.
And then just last one in this category. I mean, someone's really excited right now. Is there any kind of promotion they can take advantage of? Is there a code that they can send to their, entrepreneur community? How can we give, if we love this, how can we share it with our communities?
So here's the hard part about Meow. When you give most of what you can give up front and you're kind of a relatively new company, the default is to assume that there's a discount to be gotten or something, because in many cases, say a business checking account doesn't pay interest, or like a fintech isn't doing that. So they're able to give you these crazy promos of like, 30% off or like this, X $1,000 bonus. It's because, in my opinion, they're not giving you the economics up front. So we want to get to a point with our brand that people understand, say like when you walk into Costco and they're giving you certain pricing, you're not going to Costco and saying, well, I would like a 10% discount. That it's like, that's kind of how we want people to start perceiving what we're doing, because it's honestly what we're trying to do, at least. Trying to be very low margin on everything, such that we pass back everything pretty much up front as much as we can. That's the goal.
We love that. And, Renee and I are making a note that that's exactly what we're going to tell our clients. Like, this is the discounted price. Really good. I really appreciate that. I think in terms of security and features, that probably beyond this step as an account, you probably need to see and feel the product. Just a quick kind of mid-session plug. Dustin, if I'm listening and I'm an accountant and I want a demo, maybe I don't just want to sign up right away. How can I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can pretty much open an account for free, right? There are no wire fees or anything like that. So you can pretty much open it up, test out the platform yourself, literally with $1. See what kind of controls you can use, see how easy it is to onboard your own business. And then obviously, we're around to kind of walk you through it as well. So considering how responsive we are, I think Brandon alluded to this before, he jumps on he sees every single customer support request. There's no task that is beneath the CEO of the company. So if you're looking to get more information from us, or it's a simple, feature request, you're going to be heard.
And I can actually speak to that because when I signed up, I had like a specific thing. I was like, I'm going to email this team email. And I got a response within like 20 minutes. So, hey, I'm copying in our head of support or something. It's like, what the heck? There's humans back there? Are you guys being like too friendly? Do you have enough people? Of course, now I understand you guys run really lean and that's what you're all about. But I thought that was really cool. Renee, now do we really want to hear from Renee? Let's get into like what clients are at, what our clients, their customers are asking. What are some of those questions? And let's run through those.
Yeah. Thank you, Miguel. So I know we spoke a lot about, the background of Meow. We went over the product. We went over how, secure you guys are. I think overall, one thing that I want to ask from my clients is why Meow? Like, why should small business owners view, Meow over what else is out there?
Yeah, good question. Look, it's our belief that financial services are a commodity. So if you actually put in quotes, financial services are a commodity, we rank pretty highly, at least on my computer. I'm not sure if Google is doing some shenanigans to appease me, so that's our belief. So we don't blame you for looking for the best deal possible. That's what we want to provide. We want to try to provide the best deal possible to clients. Just make it about the numbers. We like to have the relationship with everyone. We're so grateful for the positive kind of, words you guys have been saying about our support, et cetera. But we believe it's about the economics. It's about the cash back on the card. It's about the checking account interest from our partner banks. So just look at the numbers, and hopefully that makes sense to businesses.
100%. I want to recommend the best to my clients. Are there any specific, features that you guys can kind of point out that, makes Meow stand out in the marketplace?
I think the economics are still the biggest feature by a wide margin because of the delta that we see between the national average and what's on meow.com/rate sheets. That's big. And then everything else, we just wanted to get smoother and smoother. I mean, yeah, the cash back on the card is up to 2%. The checking account interest, you have the rate sheets there. No wire fees is exciting. And the granular spend controls and ACH authorization. ACH authorization has been really hot, as you can imagine. So that's probably the most exciting one for me, at least.
Yeah. Like, and speaking of ACH and wires and such, and all those different features that, banks and so on, like typically like banks, or something that my clients come to me about where they're complaining about, because everybody wants to save money. Like, let's be real, who doesn't want to save money, is the fees that they have to pay every month. Clients will have like a fee for this, a fee for that, a fee to add me as an account manager, and so on. Are there any fees associated with Meow? Any additional fees?
There are 0 monthly fees, 0 wire fees, 0 ACH fees, and we say 0 sneaky fees. If there's a sneaky fee that you find on Meow, please let me know personally, because I go to sleep every night. I sleep like a baby knowing there's not a sneaky fee, because we simply don't make that much money on any customer, right? So, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And as far as like when I'm like, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. When I meet with clients, I'm the one who sets up, their accounts. And then I typically delegate that access to like my team. So like our bookkeepers and so on. Just for the sake of knowing, like being able to delegate the account access to my team, or even like when a client signs up and let's say, they want to give access to their spouse. How easy is it to delegate account access within Meow?
It's very easy. So touching on that point again, the person opening the account has to have the explicit authorization of the company to do so. That's from a BSA AML perspective, right? But if they have the authorization on behalf of the company to open the account, and the beneficial owners of that company have identified themselves, they pass all the checks, the OFAC checks, sanctions, et cetera. Then you have access to the dashboard, and you can invite anyone you want for the company as a bookkeeper, as a viewer, as a controller, as an admin, and they all have different roles associated with them. So it's very easy to add someone, to invite them to the account and delegate that access like you're talking about. Let them take the reins, basically. And you can give them whatever controls you want. You can allow them to spend only, $5,000 a day without getting explicit approval from the CFO or something like that. You can make them an initiator of a wire, but require someone else to approve. It's a lot of things you can do.
I think 90% of the time, whether from a client or a firm owner perspective, we want users that can't do anything to view only.
Yep. We have that. We have a lot of view only kind of users per entity.
Something that actually I'm super interested to learn about as well is the high yield interest. So what should clients know about earning 5% back on their cash?
Yeah. So the valuable thing of earning interest through our partner banks is that it's in the checking account from the partner bank. And that's kind of a nuanced thing to understand, because if you go to any fintech site, maybe not any, but in a lot of fintech sites, you'll see an interest rate advertised. A lot of times that might be on idle cash. So they might quietly call the business checking account an operating account, right? Okay, it's not a checking account. It's an operating account. It's just where you do your operations. That doesn't mean anything. That's, in my opinion, it's a way to maybe distract from the fact that you're not getting interest on that account. You should be. So the business checking account is what pays interest. It's not just an idle cash thing. It's not just something with some lockup or a CD or a savings account. The checking account where you do your operations, where you send wires, where you connect payroll from our partner banks, that is earning you interest. So that's the key thing. It's like you can avoid leaving money on the table by having a checking account that pays interest. Whatever money is held there should also be paying interest, in my opinion.
Oh,
And to kind of reiterate about, us passing back interest through our partner banks, the national average, Brandon alluded to this before, is extremely low. Around a year ago, it was around 0.07%. It has only risen to 0.08% in this past year. So nothing has really changed. Fintechs and banks are still functioning the same. So, if somebody else can come around and be lean and mean and pass that great economics, we're going to say, hey, that's great. You're going to have to beat us for playing football. But at the end of the day, right, like it's all about, do you have the features to support? Are you able to, cater to the accounting community? And if we're going to, play in this space, we're looking to do all of it.
In terms of like with receiving, wires and ACH payments, how does Meow handle like sending and receiving those?
It's all from the bank. That's the nice thing. So we're just like a software skin above a bank. You get your own business checking account, your own name at the bank. They're sending the wires. You have your own account number. You receive ACHs, wires. It's a business checking account from one of our partner banks.
Obviously, there's a lot of fraud out there these days. When it comes to like those type of challenges that clients face, will Meow pick up on like suspicious activity and immediately notify the client? How does that work?
Certainly, yeah. So we have device approvals as well. I forgot to mention that as a security measure. So if you have a suspicious login from a device that's unrecognized, you actually have to log in from a trusted device. You have to go to your email from a trusted device and approve that login before that separate login can get access to the dashboard. So say you've been using your MacBook Pro to log into the Meow dashboard for months and months and months. Suddenly, there's a new device, some Android device in Tampa that's trying to log in. It has your username, it has your password, and somehow it has your 2FA code. That device can't get in with device approvals. What happens is it says, hey, this is a new device. We don't quite recognize this. So go to an existing device, that MacBook that we talked about, open your email there, and say, yup, that Android phone in Tampa is me as well. That's a lot of steps for the attacker to get into the account. And then I'm not sure if I mentioned ACH authorization. I think I did.
Will you do it again?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you can actually create an allow list of people that you authorize to pull funds from your checking account from our partner banks. So if an attacker has your account and routing number from one of our partner banks, it's not enough for them to have those to pull money out of your account if you have set up ACH authorization. So you can make it such that only Rippling, Gusto, your insurance company, those are the only ones that can pull your credit card, for example. Those are the only ones that can pull. Anything else, it'll get blocked by default. And you can add to that allow list. It's a really powerful fraud protection measure you can add on Meow.
I know I've dealt with like fraud like a lot. I live in Miami and I've had like charges done in like Pennsylvania, and it's like, how do you guys not catch these things, So that's actually like a pretty cool feature to have. Something else that like I know clients struggle with as well is basically being able to see the history of their transactions. So for some reason, a lot of banks only go back 3 years, or I know some banks that go back a year. I'm not going to name those banks, but how far back can clients view their transaction history once they sign up?
From the beginning of account creation.
So even 5 years from now, they can see those transactions.
Yeah, there's no limit to it. You can see pretty much anything. You can put in a specific date range. It's very available within the dashboard to like filter for a time frame, and that goes all the way back to when you created your account.
And does that work the same when, let's say if a client decides to close out their account, are they still able to access like statements or, if they close the account? Because I know that's something that my clients have struggled with as well, is like they close their account and then they can't, for whatever reason, they can't access their previous statements. They can't, even if they call the bank, it's like, oh, they can't get to them.
Yeah, that's something we can export for those clients. If they want to still maintain access to their dashboard, they can do so. They can have it there. Or if they want to just close the entire dashboard too, that's easily exportable for them.
What would you say to clients who find switching banks a daunting task? Because I know, like for me, when I'm going to be talking to my clients about switching over, I want to be able to give proper points as to why they should switch.
Yeah, it can. I mean, I think the perceived switching costs are actually higher than what it actually is. We find that with basically every customer. And then when they do it, say it takes them 30 minutes, they're a lot happier in many cases, we find. That's where accountants can come in handy. That's where people who are authorized to open accounts on behalf of a company are very useful. A lot of times, startup CEOs or small business CEOs like to direct their accountant to do that for them with their authorization. So you can make it super seamless by doing it on their behalf. I mean, we're all servants here in a different capacity, right? So that's a solution. And then as an accountant, if there's a big delta in the interest that the checking account's paying and the cash back on a card, that compounds over time. So the earlier you do that, the more it compounds over time. And yeah, I mean, having third parties help with that is super, super valuable.
Now, if you guys are open to it, we get a rapid round and you have permission to say pass if it's. It's no bad questions, but it's a tough question to say fast. Are you guys open to that?
Bring it on.
You guys did 1 billion in assets with 12 people. What's next?
I mean, we want to get to, I mean, we're not playing for a single. We're playing for, we want to eliminate sneaky fees everywhere. So that's 100 billion plus vision. We want everyone using Meow.
Wonderful. You once described the startup life is like eating glass. What do you mean by that?
Every day it's just things you have to deal with. It's not, the CEO gets all the problems of the company 24/7. So chewing glass is the best case outcome for a day. But at least the abyss goes away. At least you can see clearer what the path is, year over year.
I would say it also feels like that working intact. So thank you for that.
I believe it.
I've heard you're a history nerd. Tell me anything about history.
History. I think the Undertaker threw mankind off in 1999.
That is great. You guys have talked about having 10 plus years run rate. I think that's interesting because a lot of start in running lean. What's the time horizon when you think about the impact you want to have? Is it 10 plus years? Really?
Yeah. So Jeff Bezos says when you're thinking in terms of 7-8 year timelines, you're not competing with anyone, right? A lot of companies are positioning themselves to think quarter to quarter. They answer to crazy valuations and crazy board members, et cetera. We think on 7, 8, 9 year timelines. We want to make those bets that pay off in that timeline. One of them being a low margin company in financial services. So that's why it was 10 years. Now it's technically infinite because we hit profitability. That's the plan.
And you talk about, in which I love, underserved businesses. There's different ways to think about that. How do you guys think about, who's underserved in the market when it comes to small business?
I think a lot of people see big name banks and that they know that some people at those big name banks are being treated really, really well. In my experience, it is most likely going to be the minority of people being really treated well at those banks that are being given access to, things that are not like a 4% CD, right? And I think that there's a huge opportunity to serve everybody else who is at that same bank, but with a lot less access to those types of, brokerage accounts or lending capabilities, right? The reasons why you go to like a big JP Morgan. So our opportunity is to, go after everybody that is pretty much earning nothing in a checking account, which is in fact the majority.
Very good. Yeah. And I was going to say, some folks may have listened to this and said, well, hey, I'm not VC backed. I don't have 25 employees. Maybe it's just one employee and, they're still doing maybe 500K in revenue. Like, how do you look at that as a customer? Are they not there yet? Are they perfect? How do you think about that?
So we started VC backed, but our ethos, we want to serve Main Street America. We want to get smaller and smaller with the businesses we serve. That's exciting. There's 30 million small businesses in America. So that's really where our heart is. Again, we're not like Silicon Valley born and bred. So we want to serve you folks.
And what's the smallest business that you would say is good for Meow?
Probably not the best fit for just like the solopreneur, right now. That could change eventually. But if you're a business with 5 employees, 10, 20, 25, that's easy. I mean, we can serve you today.
Brandon, you said you're a dog person. Why do you know?
Dustin, why Meow?
Everyone expects something that dates back to a specific story where a cat is involved. Unfortunately, that is not the case. What we found, again, like Brandon mentioned during the SVB debacle, is our name kind of made us shine and stand out. You hear him talking about long-term bets. The compounding brand value of a name like Meow goes so far, especially as somebody who is kind of customer facing. If I tell somebody Dustin, Kamali, Meow, they're probably not going to forget the Meow part. So it just makes you feel good. It's high dopamine. It doesn't confine us to one product. We can pretty much do anything, and I like it. Yeah, the shirts are soft. Yeah, the shirts are soft.
You'll get a lot of fandom in our household at Meow. You got 3 cats. You guys are now in the UK. Did I hear that right?
Short answer is we're focusing a lot more in the US. I mean, there's just a ton of market opportunity here.
Last rapid question. I love the low cost perspective. I think it's the child of an immigrant in need. Like that's how you run a business. Where does it come from?
Yeah, it comes from being employees. Also, child of an immigrant here, by the way. That's awesome to hear. Comes from having been employees at companies before starting Meow. That's actually quite rare when you're talking about Silicon Valley-backed startups. You know, a lot of founders go directly into it, to raising money, never having worked at a company. We were cogs in the machine. We were engineers at multiple companies. So we knew what it's like to actually be an employee. More people does not equal more output. In fact, just the opposite. You hire one person who's not pulling their weight and just wants to, seem important, and then they hire a team under them to promote themselves. And suddenly you have committees that are made up, people wasting time. You don't get anything done. Staying lean is the only way to build a generational company, in my opinion, because you don't have nonsense. It's all about the customer, and everyone there is pulling their weight. So that's just intuitive to us because we were actually employees.
What an amazing point to end on. Brandon, Dustin, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. I know that our clients and accountants are going to love this.
Thank you. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you for joining this episode. To make this conversation more actionable, I encourage you to write down 1 or 2 things that you took away. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, where I'm fairly active. Look for Miguel Alexander Centeno. And if you found value in this show, please subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. And stick around for the next show. What you learn might change your business.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Bottom Line. This podcast is brought to you by Centurion Firm, bringing you Fortune 500 tools and strategies to help small businesses and other organizations with tax, accounting, and technology implementation that maximize cash flow and long-term value. Learn more at centurionfirm.com.